Thanks for downloading a 3CR podcast. 3CR is an independent community radio station based in Melbourne, Australia. We need your financial support to keep going. Go to www.3cr.org.au for more information and to donate online. Now stay tuned for your 3CR podcast.
Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Nasser Mashni, Robert Martin and Yousef Ahmed al-Rimawi. Thank you to another edition of Australia's only radio program that is totally dedicated to the Palestinian cause in English language. We would like to welcome our listeners on the AM dial and those who will join us later on 3cr.org.au/podcasts. This episode will be our last episode for this year. So Nasser, Robert and I will have a discussion or a recap about the major Palestine-related events in the year. Stay with us and enjoy the episode. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, Robert, Yousef.
This is the last episode in this year.
Sad. I'm actually sad about this.
It has been a year since we have a team running this show, which is great. A little bit more than a year. I think Nasser and Robert, you started in November 16. So
He's very good with his dates.
Congratulations.
He's very good with his dates.
Yeah, nice.
It was a very sunny morning that morning.
It was, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's been great. Thank you guys for taking the show to a higher level.
And thanks to the listeners for listening.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's the three of us looking at each other and talking to each other, which in itself is fun. Is fun.
Otherwise, the three of us will have 6 opinions.
Yeah, at least.
Only one of us would be right, though.
And you know, who's right, and you know. So yes, big salute to our listeners, all of them, those who donated. And by the way, Palestine Remembered came second in the fundraiser effort, thanks to our generous supporters and listeners. I think this year has been like
another big year in Palestine.
Another big year in Palestine. The Palestinians remain stateless, remain marginalized, remain occupied, remain besieged in Gaza. And another big year for Palestine. So what do we have?
I think we can start with the ignominy or the indignity of Netanyahu getting a red carpet rolled out by our Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, and the way he was feted in Australia as being a true friend of Israel, and a really disgusting display in sycophancy. I mean,
so our Prime Minister was the first Prime Minister of Australia to invite Israel.
Sitting Prime Minister.
Sitting Prime Minister.
Yeah. And one of the great things was that the solidarity groups along the East Coast all turned out, and we had some really significant protests. So he knew he wasn't welcome, and he knew there was a lot of resistance. And
on popular level.
On a popular level, we were able to get a very substantive letter endorsed by very eminent Australians, and that letter was circulated throughout the world and was mentioned in the New York Times as well, where we were asking the Australian government to in fact refuse his entry. So look, he didn't come for free. There was a cost to it.
People should look back too at all the podcasts are there, because we had a great discussion about that, and well worth people listening and sharing.
Well, if they go to 3cr.org.au/Palestine, they'll be able to see all of our podcasts for the year.
Do you expect that we'll do something similar to what we did in 2008 to Israel? Because next year is 2018, and it will mark the 70th anniversary of our Nakba and their independence. Do you expect our parliament, our political elites, our parties will do something silly or even...
Look, there's no question there will be all sorts of stuff at a state level and at a federal level. The reality is the week before the 14th, 15th is budget week. So it'll be a very busy week in Canberra. And the week of the 14th is a non-sitting week. So if they do something...
something similar to what Kevin Rudd did in 2008.
There's no question they'll be, look, the reality is they've got the money, and the money gets thrown at them, and, some of their biggest benefactors have had fantastic years. In fact, the Lowies just sold out for $32 billion. So there's struggling. There's some spare cash ready to throw at the sort of... Israeli lobby agenda.
That's 2 digits more than I can comprehend.
32 billion, that's a 90.
And you're a chemical engineer.
But
smart man.
When it comes to money, my brain stops at 5 digits.
It's a worry, and obviously I think you're right, 100%. They will do something, and it's something that we need to keep track of and try and share the voice of the Palestinians to shout it down.
I don't think there's an onus on us to keep track of it, because they'll do what they do. The burden is upon us to do what we need to do, which is to commemorate the destruction of and the loss of Palestine, the destruction of 500 plus Palestinian villages, the ethnic cleansing of 750,000 million Palestinians,
the expulsion of 2/3 of our society.
6 million refugees today.
So our job is to commemorate that and remind the Zionists and those who support the State of Israel that we haven't gone anywhere. And in fact, the reality, and we talk about this so often, the Zionists, with all their power, with all of the trips that they send unionists and politicians and upcoming law students, all those junkets they throw at learned future leaders, across the Western world, with all that Hasbara, with all of the influence, with nuclear weapons, nuclear submarines, the largest air force outside of Russia, China, and the United States. Israel could take over England or France. That's how big their army is. With all of that power, 2 million Palestinians in Gaza, and 2.5 million Palestinians in the West Bank,
and 300,000 Palestinians in Jerusalem.
With some stones, maybe a Molotov cocktail, a homemade firecracker / rocket,
or even non-violent,
and maybe some Kalashnikovs. Versus nuclear submarines, nuclear war, the biggest air force outside of the 3 superpowers, and they're still scared. They can't understand why we haven't given up, because they would have given up. And when you put that equation to them and say, look, the reality is your peace can only be given to you by the one you oppress. You cannot buy sleep or comfort with a gun. You cannot buy sleep or comfort with a statement that Donald Trump signed. You cannot buy sleep or comfort because you got welcomed into Australia. You cannot buy sleep or comfort because you commemorated the charge of the Light Horse Brigade with an Israeli flag that was 30 years from its creation. Rewriting history.
That's disgusting.
Creating, making it the battle cry or the start of the birth of Israel. You can't buy that peace without saying sorry, atoning for the injustice, and making reparations.
Like Arafat used to say, I have the pen. It is the Palestinians who, this is the only prerequisite of any peace in the region, will have to go through the Palestinians. So that was the first major Palestine event in the year. I think weeks after that, the United Nations issued a report.
And what a great report it was.
It was one of the few great reports we had. The UN agency published a report accusing Israel of imposing an apartheid regime of racial discrimination on the Palestinian people. And what happened after that report? A week later, there was a lot of pressure from Israel and its friends to the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, ESCWA, the body that actually worked on the report and produced the report.
Told to remove it.
And told to remove it, and it was viewed by the Hasbara machine as a Nazi propaganda publication that was strongly anti-Semitic. See how ridiculous they can go. even in referring to a UN body. This is not a Palestinian body. This is not an Arab or Islamic or pro-Palestinian
It's United
body. This
Nations.
is United Nations. And nevertheless, when it comes to the criticism of Israel, it doesn't get away without being accused of what? Of Nazism and anti-Semitism. So the pressure made the UN agency to pull its report.
What was the lady's name that was in charge of it?
Rima Khalaf.
Because she, in the end, she decided that she would step down because she would not be a part of removing it. She is a fantastic woman.
Absolutely. I give Rima Khalaf and but
the report was brilliant because it broke it down into real simple forms, saying that everything that Israel was doing was about apartheid and blatant racism.
Yes.
Now, in its nutshell, that's what it would have said, and it had facts, statements, and everything it said was true. So if that's anti-Semitic, so be it.
The report actually clearly stated the four systems that Israel created in occupied territories, a system of marginalization that affects the Israeli passport holders in 48 areas, and also you have the siege in Gaza, and then you have the military occupation in West Bank, and something in the middle, in Jerusalem only.
Well, apartheid, Nasser, comes off your tongue pretty well. Apartheid,
if that's not
is
apartheid,
the separation.
Yeah, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's not a chicken.
It
It's just called a duck a duck.
Yeah.
It's apartheid. When you got two people, one dirt, two laws, that's apartheid.
So the report actually, we will also make reference to the report in the podcast link, because I think it's mandatory for people with any interest of Palestine to view the report.
It explains it very easily.
It explains it in blatant terms, in its very simple terms, and it calls things what their names are. And therefore, the result was the resignation of the head of the UN body, Ms. Rima Khalaf, and it takes a brave woman, it takes a brave person to actually...
Well, it's a person with morals.
With dignity and morals.
He knows the truth.
To just let go of the fame and money of a position like this for the sake of her principle. And look who's talking about Rima Khalaf these days. I mean, the social media in Jordan and the Arab world spoke about her for a few days, and then the bubble bursted and nobody speaks about her. And now she is left with her, the aftermath of her resignation. But I think it's important to give credit to these heroes every now and then. So thank you, Rima Khalaf.
Share the report.
And we will share the report. So a few months after that, I would say a couple of months after that, then came the Al-Aqsa crisis.
Yeah. So we had the assassination of 3 Israeli police officers in Aqsa, and then Netanyahu and his fanatic cabinet ministers decided they would use this as a pretext, as we had seen previously in Hebron, to isolate the Aqsa compound and install security cameras and extra security measures that would preclude the free access of Palestinians to their most holiest of sites. And what we saw was an amazing rising up of Palestinians, Christian, Muslim, atheist, agnostic, together in unison to protect Aqsa from Zionist.
There was that famous photo that went around of thousands of the Muslims kneeling and the Christians standing, and it went a long, long way. Fantastic to see.
I wish I could recall the name of the person the Christian person who joined the line of Friday prayer and opened his Bible while every other Muslim was in the middle of the Friday prayer. And in fact, the Palestinian media spoke about it and actually invented a term in Arabic language. It's called At-Tadayyun al-Watani. Maybe the word Watani might not carry the same meaning in English if we say nationalistic or national religious or religiousness. But what they mean is that you don't need a political Islamic, you don't need a political Islam or political party. You don't need to be Muslim or Christian to defend
just
Jerusalem.
Have to be a human being.
Just to be Palestinian and human being, and also with total disregard of what religion you follow, what political party you follow. And I think a few points to make here, Robert and Nasser. The first point is, while we do not agree, we do not support. I mean, when I say we, I don't talk on behalf of Palestinians, but let's say substantial segment of the Palestinian people, they don't necessarily agree with armed struggle, with, let's say, violence and assassination of soldiers. But let's remember, let's not pretend that these soldiers were, as innocent as civilians. They were armed. And they were on occupied land illegally, and in a sacred place.
They are continually provoking. Whether it's there or whether it's around other places, they provoke. The fact that they're there is a provocation. The fact that they stop people going to that mosque any day of the week that they want, they can. Even if you have a permit. Everything they do is provocation. I don't condone any violence. But as Nasser once said to me not long ago, how are you supposed to negotiate when there's a boot on your throat? What do you do? The only time anyone ever talks about Palestine in the media is when these things happen, unfortunately. Otherwise, Israel continually just do what they do every day. Kidnap teenagers, kill Palestinians, slowly get people out of houses. So that's my point on it.
The context that always gets lost, Yousef, and yes, you were touching on it. The reality is occupation in and of itself is violence.
Yeah,
and it's never ever framed.
You can't occupy another nation by being nice to them.
I can't come and sit in your house and tell you that you can't go to the bathroom or get out of the kitchen and it not be violent.
Yeah.
Now I might use a gun to threaten you, or an axe, or a hammer, or a sword, or a knife.
Form of violence.
It's violence. It might just be physical intimidation. That in and of itself is violence. And we should remember, international law says you can use armed struggle to defend yourself and your land.
It's legitimate.
The horrible bit here is when an Israeli soldier kills a 16-year-old girl.
Robert, you touched on provocation, and I want to revisit the discussion of your journey, your recent journey to Palestine. Tell me about the provocation that Palestinians
Let me tell you, two refugee
see.
Camps I went to. Two refugee camps. One was Ada. And as you're wandering around Ada speaking to people, you hear the stories of how the soldiers come in 4 to 5 times a week. Now, Ada camp is not very big. They're there because the original families were kicked out when Israel was created. They will come in with 100 soldiers. And I've got interviews on my Facebook, and we should share it, where they say that they come in and they're shooting tear gas into the homes on purpose. This is between 2 and 3 in the morning, and sometimes they'll come in at 6 a.m. Also at Ada camp, they showed me footage of the soldiers coming in their war gear. Now, when I say war gear, they have their sniper rifles. They also have their face painted in army gear. Now, these are civilians. Mums, dads, kids, grandmas. So they're getting provoked continually. But then when you go into Jerusalem and you stand there waiting, you'll see that these soldiers that are, they're kids. They'll pull over Palestinian kids and say, come here. Make them empty their bags. Make them do things that they don't want to do. Quite often they'll make them drop their pants as well and lift their shirts up in front of everybody. That is, in itself is provocation. When I'm in Bethlehem or areas like that, wanting to go with my friends into Jerusalem, they can't go because the government won't allow them because they don't have those passes. The fact that somebody can have a pass to go to Jerusalem for study and then all of a sudden have it taken away from them. If you need medical care, you won't always get it if to certain areas. It's something they'll just take away from them. Also, when the kids get arrested between 2 and 3 in the morning, against international law, they'll blindfold them. They'll take them away from their parents and they'll take them into an area, say Jerusalem from Bethlehem, where their parents can't go. They won't have legal advice. Again, this is all provocation. Iyad Banat, who was a friend of mine and a well-known activist in Berlin.
The maker of 5 broken cameras.
So I've met his kids. They're gentle kids. One got shot in the throat not long ago in the leg, and he's been kidnapped again. Now, they don't know what's going to happen. There's also another guy in there, Ashraf, in Berlin. There's footage during the 5 broken cameras where he was actually blindfolded. He was handcuffed behind his head. One of the soldiers said, I bet you won't shoot him. He walks up and shot him in the leg. This is on footage.
Wow.
Now, this kid isn't not the same. He is not the same anymore. His brother was Bassem Abu Hama, who was he's killed, and his sister. So again, now they're having a go at him. This is provocation, and not just to his family, but the families around within the village. And it happens every day. And we never hear about this.
And it only takes one person to visit to open eyes.
Well, look at my arms. What's going on with the hair there? Because I just feel it every time that I talk about it. Because they cannot do anything.
And this is a random sample of any random day under occupation.
Well, it's part of what they're taught. They're taught to hate the Palestinians. They're taught that the Palestinians are encroaching on their land. They teach in their education system that there's no West Bank. It's Judea and Samaria. It's all theirs. They don't need to share it. So you give these people a gun, what are they going to do? They're programmed this way.
And I want to make a reference to the interview that you made, Robert, with Dr. Nurit Peled about the teaching of hatred, systematic teaching of hatred.
She said if there was a racist manual, they have learnt to teach it in this education system.
Moving on to...
and we should just say that her daughter was killed by a Palestinian suicide bomber.
Yep.
So if anybody's got any reason to hate, it's her. But she's actually done the work and the analysis and worked out. In fact, there is always some sort of provocation to any. There's a cause and effect. Things don't just happen in and of themselves.
She calls herself Palestinian, and her grandkids, who speak Arabic, they say that they're Palestinian as well, which I think is really cool.
Ahlan wa sahlan. Moving on, Robert and Nasser, we're about 7 minutes away from ending the episode, and I think we are living and we are in the middle of probably an unprecedented crisis.
Well, maybe before we go to that point, maybe just quickly a recap of the highlights of the year domestically. So we had 2 BDS conferences. We had Gideon Levy come out and speak to packed audiences through Edward Said Memorial Lecture in Adelaide, into State Parliament in Victoria, Federal Parliament and the Parliament in Sydney. We had a number of rallies, the rally in support of Aqsa. We had Flag National Day, November 15. We had
Raising the flag.
And also we didn't speak about the prisoners' strike.
The Prisoner Strike Day,
and the prisoner event that we made here.
Yeah, we had the rally in support of Jerusalem on Wednesday night. The Run for Palestine. We had another successful Palestine Film Festival. So it's been a great year from a local capacity. And also the Royal Flying Doctor Service disavowed their connection to Elbit Systems. They were going to do a multi-million-dollar project with this war criminal company and have ceased that action. So all in all, from an activist point of view, I think we had a good year, yeah?
Yes, I think credit goes to organizations like APAN, Australians for Palestine, community organizations, political organizations, Palestinians in general, Australians who support Palestine, for taking the time and effort and money to make these events happen. These do not happen on their own.
So amongst all of the solidarity groups across Australia, FOPA, CJPP, AJPP, PCA, in particular the Australian Jewish Democratic Society, who were wonderful in their support this year. We sincerely appreciate it.
So we are in the middle of an unprecedented crisis, which is never before that the custodian of the peace process declares that, instead of the 5 topics of the final negotiations, let's make them 4 and let's just give away Jerusalem to one of the 2 negotiation or one of the 2 rivals. So Trump decided to give away Jerusalem to Israel.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you were a parent, this is like little Johnny taking a dump in the corner and then giving him a lolly. The prize, the prize for Israel is Jerusalem. And the belligerent bad behavior for 70 years since Nakba, 50 plus years now since Naksa, 11 years of Gaza, 20 plus years of Oslo negotiation, just belligerent bad behavior, and then go give Johnny, who's shit himself in the corner, even though you've been potty training him for a while, to go give him the chocolates.
The reward.
Here's the chocolates. The only good thing of this is finally the world has seen that the honest broker, the person who's supposed to be facilitating this peace treaty is in fact a conspirator, is in fact complicit, and is not honest or a power broker. The challenge is the vacuum that it's created, and who's going to fill that vacuum, and only time will tell whether it's Russia, China, Iran.
Internationalizing the issue, but I also want to mention the point that now I've been watching, let's say, social media in Arabic and English, and I noticed that those who speak about Jerusalem these days are not the advocates, are not the activists, are not the ordinary voices for Palestine. We are seeing people who have never said anything political, especially when it comes to Palestine and Israel, starting to raise questions and to share videos and tweets. One example is Gary Lineker, the famous football player.
English soccer player.
No, football, please. That's not soccer.
So you're not really Australian.
I don't care. I don't care. So
that's football.
Football. كرة القدم. Making a controversial. It's not controversial. He just shared a video of army arresting children. And
and putting them in a cage and said, how is this right?
And also, I want to mention the Jordanian pilot who will play part of what he said. He said, "Now we're gonna fly in his."
Don't ruin it for our listeners. Yes.
Let's not ruin it. And also, the municipality of Amman deciding to name a street leading to the American embassy, the Arab Jerusalem Street. Okay. So, if on your way to the American embassy in Jordan,
the next thing is we have a look
forms
at
of resistance.
But also the if it's done anything aside from exposing America as complicit, is the that next level of celebrity support, and
Bella Hadid.
I mean, just because she's
model.
Well, she's obviously gorgeous, but she is aspirationally, girls want to be her, guys want to date her. She's a trendsetter, 20 million followers on Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So when pictures of her get posted at a rally, she'd left a fashion show with her security guard in her Mercedes, pulls over and sees the rally and says, I'm joining the rally. Yeah. It normalizes and does great advantage in de-orientalizing our struggle.
I think we're going to have to leave it here. In about half a minute, Nasser and Robert, is there something you want to say before the end of the last episode of the season?
I would like to thank the two of you for educating me a huge amount on what is going on in Palestine and the rest of the world. I've loved it, and
You're welcome.
And the listeners also would. And thanks very much to the listeners, and I can't wait to... I was going to say see you. You two I'll see next year. But
hopefully sooner than next year. You got another trip?
No, so I'm actually banned from Palestine now.
Nasser?
Look, I don't think I could say it any better than Robert, but thank you, Yousef and Robert, for a great year, and we look forward to some more content next year.
Thanks to all our listeners. Again, it's been it's probably the most pleasant year out of the 14 year I had in this program, thanks to these two gentlemen. And I will leave you until the end of the program with what a Jordanian pilot had to say on a flight from Jordan to America.
Well, Merry Christmas, come in.
And Merry Christmas to all our listeners who are going to celebrate it.
See you next year.
من مطار الملك العلي الدولي متجهين إلى الأراضي الفلسطينية إن شاء الله فوق فلسطين، ثم إلى الشمال من القدس الشريف عاصمة الدولة الفلسطينية، ثم السواحل الغربية الفلسطينية، البحر الأبيض المتوسط، وأيضا من على الشاشات التي أمامكم يمكنكم متابعة مسار رحلة، وهنالك أيضا معلومات أخرى. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is your Captain Yousef Al Hamlan Al Daja talking to you on behalf of Royal Jordanian and my colleagues, Captain Nidal Sharaya, also First Officer, Mr. Jamil Al-Halassan, and Service Manager, Mrs. Suhair Haddad, and the rest of the crew. I'd like to welcome you on board our beautiful airplane, Dreamliner 787 to Kennedy. It's going to take us around 12 hours, 10 minutes to Kennedy to cruise initially at 36,000 feet to end up at 40,000 feet. Our initial routes for today out of Queen Alia to enter the territory of Palestine, also northern of Jerusalem, which is the capital city of Palestine, then the west coast of Palestine. To continue to Kennedy, then I'll be talking to you again during cruise. Let's now enjoy the flights. Thank you very much again for choosing Royal Jordanian.
You've been listening to a 3CR podcast produced in the studios of independent community radio station 3CR in Melbourne, Australia. For more information, go to allthews.3cr.org.au.